One of the interesting things about I Love Lucy is not only was this program a venue for an incredible comic performer, but Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz were also extremely influential in terms of how television comedy would be made. And they essentially set the format for producing the ways most TV series would be made after theirs. So, if you know anything about the history of Lucille Ball, she was actually a very successful comic performer prior to her TV show. And she and her husband, Desi Arnaz, had a radio program. And when television came along, everybody wanted her to be on their network. But Lucy and Desi were very smart. They had a very good idea of what they needed and how they wanted their television show to work. And they knew that television was indeed a little different from radio, and they would have to approach producing a television show differently than they did a radio show. So Lucy and Desi had a couple of key demands when they were looking to make a deal with this network to produce their show. They wanted a live audience because Lucy knew that as a comedian, having a live audience was very helpful for her kinds of comedy. She needed them for her comic timing, which had to do with a lot of physical activity. And you saw in the episode that we watched for our class that that's key to her performance. And then the other thing that they wanted was they wanted the series to be shot on film. And this was a real sticking point. No one wanted to pay for this because if you'll remember, in the earliest years of television, film was too expensive. There wasn't a big enough audience to justify spending the money to shoot something on film. So ultimately, what happened is that CBS decided, sure, we'll pay for the live audience. We're not going to pay to shoot it on film. But Lucy and Desi said, okay, we'll pay for it to be shot on film, but in return, we're going to own the rights to those episodes. And guess what? Lo and behold, that was a brilliant idea on their part and very short-sightedness on the part of the network because, of course, what do we know? People are still watching I Love Lucy. Those episodes are still valuable and generating money. Even though 70 years ago, the networks couldn't imagine that anyone would ever want to watch one of those episodes again. The fact that they were shot on film meant that they could be valuable in the future. They could be distributed in different ways. And indeed, even today, you can find I Love Lucy on TV somewhere. All right. So aside from wanting those things, they also had a good idea about how they would have them shot. And that is, they set a pattern for a multi-camera sitcom. This is an image and some quotes from the January 1952 issue of American Cinematographer magazine, which did a story on how unique the shooting of I Love Lucy was. So you can see they're here. They're showing you cameras 1, 2, and 3, how those move simultaneously, and then we can see the edge of the seating for the live studio audience. And this is explaining how they go about shooting simultaneously what goes on there on the set. Now, I Love Lucy had some major impacts, like I said, on production style. It very much fixed this format that you're going to have a filmed series using a multi-camera setup. And that means you've got to have some kind of video feed. And you can just have a simple live video feed to figure out how you're going to cut from one camera to another. But then you're also going to have a live audience there. So the multi-camera setup, that allows you to get the best reactions that you can from the different performers. The live audience also allows it that comic timing as well as the laughter for the soundtrack. And even more importantly, that nature of having it on film means that you can syndicate your show. That means it's valuable. You can go and you can send it to other stations when it's off network and for many years to come. This was a way to make comedy and to make television that would be profitable for the producers, and not just because you might sell some ads the first time it was on TV.